Pointy Star here with yours truly, VO. I'm starting a new segment called This Deck is Underrated, and we're going to start out with Harpies. As you can see, we are going to start with several different duels with like Cyber Dragon, Dark World, and several other decks. The Cyber Dragon deck that came out got a lot of really good cards recently, like the Zoe, and I believe the other one's Dre. These cards are strange because they all work together in ways in which they all become level 5, summoning their XYZ, which has an amazing effect that works with the actual Cyber Dragon. Plus, with them all being treated as Cyber Dragons, similar to the way Harpies are. He activates a Fusion Gate to override my spell card because he doesn't want the attack boost on my Dancer, and I continue to attack. The way I'm using the Dancer right now is with Dancer's effect. Once per turn, you can target a face-up wind monster, return it to your hand, and then you can normal summon a second time with a wind monster. I'm using that to retreat it to my hand every turn, so it doesn't get destroyed by anything, since it's my only monster. I draw a second monster and decide to summon that one instead, because it has a higher attack, and I can assume that nothing bad will happen to it, because it's one monster. Sadly, he does decide to Dark Hole that monster to summon his Dre, in which then I Mirror Force it to the grave again. He sets a Call of the Haunted because, well, it's a good card, and the next thing I do is Chidori to try and bounce the face down card. He does chain it in response, and I use Chidori's other effect, which bounces a face up card to the top of the deck, in which he quits. The next duel I fought was a Dark World deck, which was actually quite scary because I used cards like the Morphing Jar, as you saw, and Dark World Dealings, because I really like getting the other effects off of the sign, as you'll see at the end of this turn. He does go and get a lot of cards out, but because I have my silly Morphing Jar in the field, he gets to get like a +5 to the end of his turn because he used all of his cards. That was a little bit scary, but luckily for me, I got my +3 from the sign, adding Queen, Dancer, and Channeler to my hand. Dark Bribe is a bad card. Don't use it. He Dark Bribes my field spell, a disposable card because I even use it to destroy itself. And then I continue to discard cards because he keeps trying to get the discard 2 draw 2. And I really do not agree with that. So instead I just kind of left an open field so I could torrential and a couple other things. He does have a lot of monsters, and since he no longer had cards, I just continued to negate these cards so I could summon my 5. As soon as I pulled out all 5, he quit. The next duel we did was against Destiny Heroes because, well, some guy decided to still use them. They don't have Stratos, and so I wouldn't call the deck the best deck, but if you can make it work, I understand. I decided to open up with the Channeler play and just simply go into Dragosack and attack. The monster I attack into happens to be a Dandelion. He gets 2 tokens, but that's not a big deal. It looks like he could have done Synchroing if he had summoned a card, but instead he decided to go for other combos. A Night Beam was unexpected. Few people run that card, but I understand it's not bad. He MST'd my field spell, which was good because it baited out what I was trying to do. I ended up using Dragosack to kill the other one, which happened to be a Scapegoat. Here I decided to turn my token to attack mode to bait an attack with it, but it wasn't a big deal. I got my extra 2 tokens at the end of the turn, and he ends up summoning 2 monsters, Diamond Dude and Malicious. Malicious doesn't do much. He just kind of pops a token, pops another token, and I believe he should quit shortly after. The next duel was against a Dragunity deck. Dragunities are really good this format because, well, they have really good combos, but they're also really bad because their field spell is gone. So they tried to make the consistency go better and stuff with the maxis, I understand, but I don't think it helped that much because I went Egotist and he got a 1 card, which he happened to draw his Ducks, which was, I guess, lucky. And I just do 2 attacks. I think I set 2 with my Dark Hole and my Dimensional Prison. I wanted to protect the Dimensional Prison, so that's why I set the Dark Hole. He summoned the Ducks, and he does his little play to pull out a Stardust. The Stardust doesn't do much because it ends up getting destroyed by the Dimensional Prison. Dimensional Prison gets around his effect, and sadly Harpy Lady 1 does boost all of his wind monsters, which kind of sucked, but it wasn't a big deal. He does max C again to the effect of the Channeler, but I don't really care much because Dancer can go back and I pretty much have game here. Yeah. I believe the last duel I did happened to be against, what was it? Okay, Lightsworn, and then there was just a short duel. The Lightsworn deck, Lightsworns are really good once they get these two new cards. Um, I guess, like, I summon my Harpy Channeler, and he tries to chain Breakthrough Skill, but the effect of the field spell activates the second the Channeler hits the field, so you cannot negate that field spell effect unless you MST it. I was unable to get multiple summons off, though, but I still managed to, next turn, get summons off. The field spell blew itself up, but Chidori was doing good, getting rid of the face-down monster he had, and I declared a couple direct attacks. I ended my turn there, and I got the two monsters out. He tries to go for a play and pulls out his Synchro, which is a really good card. Blows up the Mirror Force and attacks over my Chidori, but I did have a Harpy in my hand and a Harpy on the field, so I can go Chidori next turn. I went for the Chidori, as I said, and then I used Hysteric Sign so I could get the Egotist for in case next turn he gets a playoff. He has 1600 left and he Necro Gardener with a lucky mill at the end. He uses his Pot of Duplicities to hopefully get really good mills, and he did happen to get the JD, but he ended up putting back his Lightsworn, so he wasn't able to summon it. He was hoping for a good mill to get it, but sadly he was unable to. The last duel I ended up doing was the Harpy versus Trag duel. It was supposed to be some sort of Exodian Across deck, and I summoned the Queen. The next turn I summoned a couple more cards using the Channeler and Dancer to pull back Dancer for another Queen, I believe I did. Yes, I attacked with the Queen, and I did 21, and then he summoned his Trag. So I set Dimensional Prison and ended. He was unable to get around my Dimensional Prison, and he ended up attacking into it. The next turn, I used Channeler's effect again, I believe. And I did some really good things, and he shortly quit after that. The deck itself is a really solid deck, I'd say. It has some really good combos if you can pull them off, and I'll show you the deck list right now. And here's the deck. I run 2 Harpies Pet Dragons because you tend to draw the card a lot. 3 Queen because Queen is a really nice card, 1900 attack, and she searches for the field spell, which will not only deck dance but field spells and infinite MST. As you see, I don't run any. 1 Cypher Harpy Lady and 2 Harpy Lady 1s because these cards are always considered Harpy Ladies. You can only run 3 of any of them. 3 Harpy Lady, 3 Harpy Lady 1, or 2, or 3, or Cyber Harpy Lady, or any mixture of the 3. Or of the 5. 3 of the 5. We run 3 Channelers because this card is great, and 3 Dancers. Some people don't run 3 Dancer. I found it nice because you could use Channeler to pitch the monster or the spell to summon the Dancer, put Dancer back to summon a different one because these ones all have higher attack, or these guys all have higher attack, or this one can just go into attack position. I was also using the Morphing Jar because this deck has a problem to run out of hand presence because you do a lot of discarding with card effects such as Hysteric Party or the Channeler, or actually just using Queen to get the field spell out. So you end up running out of hand presence fast, so this card helps give you back 5 cards. Spells I was running, Dark Hole, 3 Dark Hole Dealings. Dark Hole Dealings works great because it sets up your graveyard for the party, and it also lets you discard Hysteric Sign to gain the second effect, which says add up to 3 Harpy cards with different names from your deck to your hand. So I used 3 Egotists. Some people only use 2 because you can recycle it with this from your hand, or from your deck or your grave, I believe. And but I liked being able to draw it as opposed to just using Sign to get it because Sign has a great second effect that I go for more often than the first. So this card is great. If you have a Harpy Lady, which they're all treated as Harpy Lady on the field, you can summon one of this, or this, or this from the deck. And, well, that's great. I use Book of Moon and a Rank Up Limited magic. I really like the Rank Up Limited because it lets you take level 4 things such as Chidori, and it lets you turn it into this 4000 attack point monster with the effect of when an opponent's monster declares an attack, destroy everything, which is really nice. And I run 3 field spell. Drawing this card in doubles is not really bad because you can MST a bunch of times and such. And I run the 15-15-10 that I like to try and stick with, as well as having the 10 trap line out that I try to keep in all decks of 1 Bottomless, 1 Torrential, 1 Compulse, 1 Warning, 2 Mirror Force, 2 Deep Prison, and then 2 of the other card. This one has the Hysteric Parties, and other decks have different cards such as Call the Haunteds or such. The extra deck I'm sticking with in this deck's pretty basic, with the Drago Sack and the Big Eye. I don't use these two cards as much as other people do, such as the blue from our team that uses it all the time. I have the C69 in here, which I really like to have because of all the rest of the rank 4s. Pappy is good. Black Ship. This Pet Mirage Dragon is really good because when you summon it, it cannot be touched by your opponent's cards that target in any way, shape, or form. And the only good card that does not target is the Medolce Queen, which is underplayed as of now. We have us a Diamond Direwolf, which I personally love the card. There's Winged Beasts in here, so it's good because you can summon this and use an Egotist for a third, Xyz into this, and then just pop the third one and get that. We have 3 Chidori. I use Chidori like there's no tomorrow because it's such a good card in my opinion. I really like how it works, and its effect to pop 2 cards is really nice. I use 1 Evil Swarm Knight, Bezobel, the Noble Swarm card. And he's really nice when you run out of cards in your hand and you just go like 1-2 Xyz, because he can blow up everything your opponent has if they went set 4 or something like that, and he can make the game a fair playing ground again, because you have less cards to activate it, and so they have less cards afterwards. My Stroke is a good card when you need to flip a monster face down for an effect, such as like Pappy making it go weak, or this card right here making it go back to the bottom of the deck instead of the top, such as an opponent one time summoned the Blackluster Soldier. Using this card, I was able to flip it down, and this card, I was able to put it back to the bottom of the deck instead of having to put it on top for them to use next turn. I use 2 Degusto Emeralds. I've only gone into this a couple times, so I probably don't need to, but it's good because if you burn through the deck really fast, and you need to be able to put the cards back in to draw and use more often, so this card's been really helpful. And the Cowboy, necessary because 800 damage is a lot. You end up a lot of times with these weird numbers of like 16 and 12 and 19 and 18, and doing some strange numbers of damage with the attacks, in which the 800 at the end can really just help by going into it at the end and winning. So that right there is the Harpy deck. I hope you enjoy, and I also hope that you subscribe. Thank you, and yeah.